This begins part 2 of Change That Oil. Step 8. Emptying the drain pan the first time. Slowly slide your drain pan out free of the car. Set a funnel inside an empty container's mouth. Pick up the oil pan and slowly pour its contents into this bottle. Avoid overpowering the slow-moving oil and risk overflowing the funnel. It probably will not fill the gallon container to the top, but if it looks like it will, simply stop for now. Screw the cap tightly onto the bottle and proceed filling another bottle if necessary. Wipe your hands, the bottle, spout of spilled pan, and especially the tip of the funnel. Step 9. Removing the old filter. For you ladies out there, now would be a good time to don some latex gloves, as this by far is the messiest part of an oil change. Slide underneath the car and reposition the drain pan, this time centered below the oil filter. Beside you, you will have your spare filter and filter wrench. Take your cloth rag and wipe the old filter clean with this so you can get a good grip on this later. Take your oil wrench and slip it up over this filter. Get your body positioned in a way you have maximum turning ability and begin to turn this counterclockwise. It shouldn't be so tight it takes every ounce of your strength to do this. If it seems this is the case, chances are you are turning it the wrong way, thus tightening it. Assuming you free this up, turn it with a wrench only to the point you can finish this process by hand. Now, setting down the oil wrench, completely back this filter off with your hands until it nearly is free. Again, scoot to the side and catch the filter in hand, but this time you may quickly guide it directly down into the pan. Well, waiting less than a minute for the discharging oil to become a slow drip, take a couple drops of old oil and coat the rubber gasket of the new oil filter evenly. Caution! Visually inspect your old oil filter. Confirm the rubber gasket is on this. If not, chances are it's still stuck to the car body. Remove old gasket if this is the case. You don't want two gaskets in place while reattaching your new filter, as this will never seat properly and cause a massive leak. Double check your new filter to make sure the gasket was oiled. I cannot stress enough how this will prevent your filter from being a bear of a job on the next removal. Wipe the outer lip of the entire oil pan with some rags and wipe away any stray oil that may have dripped down onto any other surface as it worked its way into the drain pan. No need to needlessly drip oil going down the highway. Begin threading the new oil filter back on clockwise. Careful not to cross thread. You may find this can be a tricky act of dexterity. It sometimes helps to use a two-handed approach where one index finger is at the bottom center of the filter for bounce while the other hand spins this onto the threads, not unlike spinning a basketball on your index finger. Do whatever is comfortable to you. Continue spinning this filter all the way to the top. Now, only using your hands, begin to crank this filter tightly into place. Caution! Ladies, if you cheated and used an oil wrench now to tighten this filter on, it would come back to haunt you later, as this filter would be impossible to get off, a true sign of an amateur mechanic. Using some paper towels, take time to wipe the new filter clean along with your oil wrench and any other oily surfaces. Spot check your driveway and wipe up any stray drops of oil that might have landed on this surface. Step 11. Empty drain pan once again. Slide the drain pan out from car and finish filling container by emptying this pan using a funnel. Be sure to wipe this funnel thoroughly clean to avoid contaminating clean oil in the future. One neat little trick is to flip your oil filter gasket side up and drop it inside the box it came in. No matter how much you try, there will be some residual oil inside your old filter when it comes time to throw it out. To cut down on any chance of seepage, I recommend tying this box and dirty filter inside double plastic bags. Step 12. Tighten oil plug securely. Slide back underneath and using your wrench socket driver, begin to tighten the oil plug with about 20 pounds of force. Caution! It is quite possible to over-tighten this bolt, as there are but a few threads in this thin-walled oil pan holding it in place. This has been commonly known to happen and is quite an expensive repair. A professional mechanic will have to re-tap these threads and switch up to a larger bolt. Step 13. Fill the engine with oil. Now that both the oil filter and drain plug are securely attached to the vehicle, you may begin filling the engine with fresh new oil. Locate the oil fill cap. Unscrew this and set it aside out in plain sight. Although this chamber has a wide opening, you are going to fill this with a large bottle. It would be unprofessional to slosh expensive new oil all over your engine block, so use a funnel while filling this. To break the seal of the bottle, simply poke it with your thumbnail or available screwdriver, and peel the aluminum foil back out of the way. Should this foil come free, throw it away in your trash bag so it doesn't get mixed in with the new oil, a clog waiting to happen. As you begin to pour the oil, stop! Wait a couple seconds and listen. If you inadvertently forgot to replace either the filter or drain plug, you will now hear money being wasted in the form of expensive oil passing on through and drizzling onto the ground. If so, stop pouring immediately and return to the source of the leak and tighten it at once. Continue dumping the bottle's contents into the funnel, making sure not to overrun the funnel, which only an impatient mechanic would do. You only want about 4 quarts inside the motor at this time. Stop and cap your oil bottle. Replace your fill cap so it doesn't end up falling down inside your engine. Murphy's Law being what it is, often you may find small objects magically become swallowed when falling deep down inside the engine compartment. Crank your car over and let it run about 1 minute. What you are doing is not only filling the motor and oil pan, but pressurizing the oil filter as well. Shut it off. Remove the dipstick and take a reading on it. Chances are you are still a half quart down. Your target is that sweet spot on the stick dead center on the fill range, just above the min and below the max reading. Add more oil again, run the car for 30 seconds, then shut it down. You may have to repeat this once again to fill this to the proper level. Caution! Overfilling an engine is as detrimental as running it too low and should be avoided. If this is the case, remove some oil via the drain plug underneath and catch a small portion of new oil. But before doing so, make sure your drain pan is perfectly clean while capturing this oil in case you need to refill the motor afterwards. Step 14. Breaking down your equipment. Satisfied your oil level is optimal, replace the fill cap, making sure it clicks as you tighten it down by hand. Begin cleanup. Gather all your tools together, especially anything you don't want to run over. But before you take any bows, you know you are not finished just yet, as your car is still suspended on jack stands. It's simple, just reverse the process from before. Caution! With the jack stands, you need to crank up the floor jack enough to drop the stands down before pulling them free. Then, ever so slowly, lower the car on either side, careful not to jerk it or drop it too fast. Do both sides. Remove the chock. Double check that all tools are out of harm's way and gather together to return to storage. Step 15. Time for a test drive. All decent mechanics live by the golden rule of professionalism, which tops off their completed work with the test drive. So, drive your car around the area and spy on your gauges. If no idiot lights come on, that's a good sign. Park your ride and peek underneath to see if any oil appears to be leaking. If not, stand up and pat yourself on the back. Congratulations! You changed your oil successfully! Questions and answers. The author would like to field common questions often asked of him in hopes of guiding others through this oil maintenance process. Question: why should I buy a new filter each time I do my oil change? Answer: contaminants and metal particles float up out of the filter when you refill your engine. Why recirculate what your oil filter works so hard to remove? The point of changing these fluids is to remove as much of these abrasive particles, better known as sludge, as possible to reduce further erosion of engine parts, thus prolonging the longevity of your motor. Question: do I really need to change my oil every 3,000 miles as my mechanic and owner's manual recommended? Answer: in most cases, no. It depends more on your oil blend. If it's synthetic, you may go 10,000 miles between changes. On regular oil, and unless you drive more than 15,000 miles annually, you can get away with 2 or 3 changes per year. But not if your oil really looks black or feels gritty to the touch. If that is the case, immediately change that oil. Question: I saw that you have quite a lot of tools. Is it worth the expense for me to invest in all these tools? Answer: if you are a beginner at this, probably not. See if you could lend a hand helping someone else to change his or her oil before committing yourself to owning these tools for yourself. On average, though, I save 50% of what a garage would charge me each and every change they perform. In my case, I'm saving about $25 a change or $50 per year. But the jack and stands are great for tire changes too, which save me from paying someone to rotate these. I imagine it wouldn't take long to recoup your modest investment. Question: have you ever really screwed up an oil change before? Yes, I have. Twice. A common mistake for others is forgetting to put the filter and oil plug back on before filling the engine. The classic mistake I made was not checking to see on my Ford F-250 pickup whether the old filter gasket was still present. It was, and when I screwed on the new filter, it felt funny because there was two of these in place of one. To make matters worse, I did not hear this splashing onto the ground until after I started the engine. This was quite embarrassing, seeing how I made a nice mess in my buddy's driveway, not to mention waste $15 in never used oil plus $10 in kitty litter. But thankfully, this mistake was never repeated, so it was a valuable lesson indeed. Another time was not my fault entirely. The clerk in the automotive center sold me a foreign metric filter when mine should have been domestic, SAE. I got all the way through the changing process and about to switch out the filter when I discovered the new filter just wouldn't thread on. Because I didn't want to put on the old cruddy filter again, I was left stranded. A kind Samaritan gave me a lift to the automotive center and I purchased the right filter to complete the job. No harm, no foul. This concludes part 2 of Change That Oil.